Getting with the radio show in just a few minutes. This is Las Calaveras right there. This is the 10-year anniversary. Crown Heads, John Huber, you are a man and a mensch. I think you do fine work. Look at that beauty. Look at that. Dear goodness gracious. Let's smoke that. Let's have ourselves a show. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Don't forget to follow on the Twitters and on Instagram, Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, and of course, subscribe on YouTube and Rumble, wherever it is you are. I'm glad that you are here. Smoke them if you got them. I know I will. Right there. Oh, look at that cut. Cut shallow, people. That's my advice. Cut shallow. Let's light this up. Let's start a radio show.
Yeah, I think it was 3 weeks after then Senator Vance was sworn in the U.S. Senate when he got that phone call. I had been working on it throughout his time in the chamber. I want to step back, and sorry for saying weeks. All the time is kind of meshing together at this point in a very accelerated administration or first couple of weeks of the administration. Your role is critical to the president's kind of broader agenda, particularly on energy, climate, environment, conservation, permitting issues as well. When you look at kind of the workforce that you're coming over the top of from the last administration, very different policy priorities from the last administration, how do you see this playing out?
I think it's important for our team to be showing up. I was just briefed yesterday that on Mondays and Fridays, the EPA headquarters was averaging about 5 to 8% capacity. I mean, think about how low that number is.
I think that number is very low, Lee Zeldin, who is now in charge of the EPA. 5 to 8%? What are we paying rent on those buildings for? Well, we're paying for upkeep. It's we paying, the taxpayer paying. And who is a government employee to say they don't come back to the office? Just who exactly do they think they are? What rules do they think they have to follow? What rules do they think they get to create? I mean, this is not only true of those people who are saying, we refuse to come back to the office and you can't force us back to the office. This is so true of the whole USAID fight, an absolute surreal fight with people who believe that this government agency single-handedly is saving America from itself. And without it, we will all die. Good gosh. I hate to break it to you, but we would all do better with a little bit less government. Tony Katz Today. Good to be with you. 833-GOT-TONY, 833-468-8669. That's how you get to be a part of the show. 833-GOT-TONY. I have got a bunch to get to on that subject, including the dismantling of the Department of Education, which if I could. Really, Producer Landon? Nothing? No? Thank you. Hell yeah. I will get into that story. But first, you cannot swing a cat to the extent that you should be swinging cats. Don't. By the way, the Swinging Cats was the name of my folk band in college. You cannot swing a cat without, I said it again, without discussing the tariffs. And here was Trump. Whoa, he was swinging big. And a tariff against Mexico, 25%. Boom. And a tariff against Canada, 25%. Boom. He always throws that in there because he's funny. And then another tariff against China, 10%. Bammo. Well, China has the ability to respond. We are not China's sole market. And China can say, well, if you're going to put a tariff on us, we're going to engage a retaliatory tariff on you. With China, you're talking about a very large game of economic chicken. For our benefit, or to our benefit, I should say, we are in a much better financial position than China. I am telling you that what we see in China right now is free fall. These people are in a very, very precarious and dangerous spot. And yes, they can be beaten. Now, I'm going to get into this in a conversation about the Panama Canal, which, man, we are not giving enough credit to Trump and Rubio and what happened there. We're not. But then we do things like sovereign wealth funds. And it's like, wait, what is our focus here? I want focus to be in the right places. China has a large economy. China is not a second world nation. It's a first world nation. It should be treated as such by everyone. And China is in a major state of disarray economically. You have entire real estate groups that are losing billions of dollars. You have manufacturing that is down through their own dealings, especially with COVID and the massive lockdowns that they put upon themselves. They have a population implosion taking place, maybe not one to the future that has been discussed. The conversation about China's population is that you're talking about 1.4 billion people, except you may soon be talking about 500 million people within 100 years. They simply don't have the creation of new Chinese people to make up for what it is they're losing because people die. I mean, that's just natural. It's very hard to have a nation without a population. It's just the way it is. We in the United States can create Americans. You're an American, you're an American, you're an American. We're like Oprah. Right? As long as you follow the law, you get to be an American and you get to be an American. China can't do that. And China is dealing with the very ugly effects of the one-child policy. Now, there's an argument made that why are we discussing this as something that's happening to China in the future, in the next 100 years? It's already begun. If you take a look at birth rates and replacement rates of China compared to, let's say, India. How is it possible that China has more people than India? It's just an impossibility. It simply cannot be if you take a look at the data and you extrapolate it out over time. Right now, the population implosion in China is beginning, which is why China has been, in so many cases, trying to engage its dominance. Belt and Road Initiative, China 2025, a whole slew of initiatives to try and further engage their own strength, going deep blue as they have with a Navy, engaging aircraft carriers and ski jump technology on the carriers, although they're not anywhere near proficient at it as of last check. China has massive problems, but they're still a far bigger economy than Mexico and Canada. So here's Trump with the tariffs on Mexico. We're going to put a 25% tariff on you. And then you hear that there's a deal. And here's Claudia Sheinbaum, the president of Mexico. We're going to put troops on the border, which is exactly what we said was going to happen. But remember, that also did get said in November that Mexico was going to be more of a help. But the inauguration came, and where was the help? This is where both sides, the MAGA faithful and the MAGA hater, they lose focus on the subject at hand, and they need to gain focus. You could argue that the Trump threatens tariffs. Mexico says, well, we're going to do what we already said we're going to do, and Trump holds off for 30 days. Why even go through the machinations? Why go through the back and forth and the issue? Who won that? Who lost that? Trump wasn't showing any strength. He didn't stick with it. He just talks a big game and isn't willing to do the thing. Maybe doing the thing was never the thing. But maybe the talking had to happen because while Mexico did indeed promise these things about stemming the flow of illegal immigration, about stemming the flow of drugs, Trump was inaugurated on January 20th. We're in February, boo-boo. They hadn't moved yet, so he said, hey, let's get a move on. You got to do your work. See how I snap? You got to do your work, kitten. Maybe that's what it was all about. I have been discussing that I am opposed to the idea of tariffs as policy. Tactic, I understand. Well, I would put forth to you, after watching what has taken place over the last 48 hours, the tariff is nothing more than a tactic for everyone except China. Oh, Trump's willing to bother you. Trump is willing to annoy you like no one's business. But in the end, give him a little something. It's all tactic. The Canada tactic was you're allowing fentanyl to flow into the country. I think he should have focused on Chinese nationals, which are coming through the Swanton sector, which is there, Vermont and parts of upstate New York, etc. It's a real issue. And we can't have this. You have to do more. Now Canada is going to put $1 billion towards the border this. I don't know. Maybe they were going to do that anyway. Maybe that was already the case. I'm not 100% sure. But I know that the Canadians were very, very, very unhappy. Very unhappy with how this got presented to them, and Canadian people are infuriated. And you've got the head of the province there in Ontario saying, we're going to cancel the Starlink deal, $100 million, we're going to cancel it. Elon Musk was like, oh, well. And some people said, well, they're going to now put those deals with the Chinese. Do you like that, Tony? We're now giving the Chinese the advantage in Canada. Canada has already said no to Huawei. And no rational person takes a deal with the Communist Chinese Party when it comes to people's personal information. Canada can't fight like China does. Canada has 40 million people. Is that the pretty sure Landon, look it up. What's the population of Canada? You realize quickly that as you take a look at this tariff idea, you really can cripple the country. You can cripple Canada. It's kind of incredible. How many people in Canada? 40 million people. 40.1 million people. Yeah, you can end that country very, very, very quickly. I know we don't usually think like that, but it's no wonder that Canada's like, okay, what do we want to do here? But again, the tariffs did not get put in place. Tactic, not policy. Because if it was policy, in Mexico's case and in Canada's case, tariffs would be happening today. If it's the most beautiful word in the world, which Donald Trump has said, if it brings in so much to the economy, as Donald Trump has said, it brings so much money into our coffers, then you would do it. You would do it because it's a good idea. But it's never been a good idea. But to understand Trump is to understand that the deeds are different than the words. And when I coined, as I did in the first term, the first two rules of Trumpism. The first rule of Trumpism is that Trump wins. The second rule of Trumpism is that a deal can always be made as long as it adheres to the first rule of Trumpism. Part of the deal is making the statement that I told you I was going to do it, and I'm doing it. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt.
President Trump is not messing around, and he's no longer going to allow America to be a dumping ground for illegal criminals from nations all over this world. And so El Salvador has not just agreed to the repatriation of their own citizens, but also illegal criminals from other nations who will then be sent to their prisons. Venezuela as well has agreed to repatriation flights, and Colombia also agreed to cooperate with the repatriation of illegal Colombian nationals that we have found in the interior of our country. And I can also confirm that today, the first flight from the United States to Guantanamo Bay with illegal migrants are underway. And so President Trump, Pete Hegseth, and Kristi Noem are already delivering on this promise to utilize that capacity at Gitmo for illegal criminals who have broken our nation's immigration laws and then have further committed heinous crimes against lawful American citizens here at home.
Promises made, promises kept. We have to show that we are strong. And we have to utilize the tools that we can use in order to make that happen. So the people who have been screaming that the tariffs forced Canada and Mexico to bend the knee, I don't know, that may get you some clicks, but it's not really much if it was already promised. I mean, that's true. I'm not arguing you shouldn't do something to get these people to move, to get these nations to move. And yes, the one thing that I agree with President Trump in the theory is that these other countries have absolutely been abusive and thought if they could walk all over the United States will just do whatever because they have to keep their stature. And this is the way they play it. And we don't have to provide. It's just like European nations that thought they didn't have to pay into NATO. I think that that's undoubtedly true. And if Trump has set a standard for a new conversation, that was it, and I think beautifully done. But if tariffs were the bee's knees, then you would implement the tariffs. But he didn't implement the tariffs. He threatened the tariffs because it was never policy. It was always tactic. From beginning to end, it was always tactic. So now that this is said and done, what is it that we expect? Or is anybody going to pay attention to the conversation again? Because if it's me, I need Mexico to be willing to go to war with the cartels. And if it's me, I need Canada to tell China, you can't send another person to our shores. We no longer accept planes from China. We just don't do it. That's how we're going to stop communist Chinese grown men from coming into Canada and then trying to sneak into the United States via these northern border sectors. So the deals that we got, well, these were the deals. I think they're already on the table. Now we just set them a little bit louder. Everyone's like, oh, look at this. Now we have to be watching about what the result of that is. What happens next? Because if we haven't stemmed the tide, then putting tariffs into effect is just part of the story. I don't think people understand that if you're going to protect the country, you might actually have to protect it. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Guys, just I'm writing right now. So Todd Young, senator from Indiana, is all in for Tulsi Gabbard. But I have a little bit of background for you. And I'm going to bring that. I'm just putting this on the Twittix right there. Yeah, so a little bit to share there on what may have changed for Senator Todd Young. I'm going to bring that to you right now. Let me just pull up my notes here. That's right. I have notes. And then there was a statement that Todd Young put out on the Twittix. Different guy, and I wonder if, because there's been a lot of talk about whether or not he would get a primary challenge in the state of Indiana. Thought of as not, not being strong enough, not being Trump-esque enough or Trump-aligned enough. I wonder if he's just trying to change that. I don't know. I have no idea how this is going to be seen by people, but I will share that with you. But I think the larger point is these confirmations are all coming, and they're all coming today. Coming back to the radio show. Glad you guys are here. Tulsi Gabbard is going to get confirmed. And Kash Patel is going to get confirmed. And it seems that RFK is going to get confirmed. Susan Collins saying of Tulsi Gabbard.
After extensive consideration, conversations with her in my office, attending the hearing, questioning her there, and listening to her in the closed session, I decided to vote that I will vote for her. I believe she's committed to strengthening our national security.
This is happening. Tony Katz today. What's going on, everybody? One of the big questions had been about Senator Todd Young of Indiana. Full disclosure, my senator, because here comes Elon Musk with this post. Todd Young is a deep state puppet. 2 hours later, Todd Young is the greatest guy I ever met in my life. You're like, what happened here? Well, all you know is that you've got this post from Senator Young. I appreciate Tulsi Gabbard's engagement with me on a variety of issues to ensure that our intelligence professionals will be supported and policymakers will receive unbiased information under her leadership. I believe that's how it ends right there. Under her leadership, right? And then there's a letter. As I said to Senator Collins during the hearing, I commit to not making any recommendation to personal or professional capacity regarding the legal standing of Edward Snowden to the President of the United States or the Attorney General. This is part of Tulsi Gabbard's letter that she sent to Senator Todd Young, I should say. So this was one of the things that bothered Todd Young, this idea of whether or not you think Snowden was a good guy. What I'm hearing is that Senator Young had conversations with Vance. And in those conversations with the vice president, there were, I don't know, do they call it assurances? Do they call it commitments? However you see it. And Young may have gotten in writing assurances about Snowden or other things that Gabbard would do. Is she going to provide intelligence to the president, or is she going to decide not to share some intelligence because it might interfere with her own political beliefs? So I don't know what that conversation was with J.D. Vance, because I don't know the relationship Young had with Vance prior to Vance being elected as vice president. But whatever that conversation was, that was enough. And Young is a vote for Tulsi Gabbard. Backroom dealings, peoples. And I wonder if there was any deal made regarding re-election to the Senate. Indiana's about to find out. I'm Tony Katz. Interesting. Very, very interesting. Right there. Because I mean, Young has money in the bank, like real money in the bank. So to make the challenge would not be easy. But it's still possible. Does this now change that, where anything was given to the idea of, hey, I'm going to run for re-election and I'm going to need Donald Trump to say, Todd Young, okay. Like, I'm curious. Curious about what happened there and what might happen there. There's been a lot of conversations in a lot of places about primaries to Todd Young. Dear God, I have been approached on this subject. But I'm here to tell you that this may change things if you're going to get Trump support. It's going to be a little more difficult. Now, also, it should be known that he's not up until 28. So a lot of this can also be forgotten about. You know what I mean? Like, people have got short memories. That much is true. All right. I'm glad you guys are here. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today is the name of the show. Just putting some things together right now. And I'm going to be playing some audio, producer Landon, from Cynthia Nixon, the actress, at this rally. Ugh. And you're just going to have a finger on the dump button, man. Las Calaveras, this is their 10-year anniversary of Las Calaveras. They do this annually. They do this cigar. I like them. I like Las Calaveras. It's different every year. This one is smoking a little lighter. Like, I have a couple of these. Remember, it's a hand-rolled product. Sometimes they're different, but this draw is too easy. It's coming through too quick. Beautiful though. Look at that. Look at that beauty. And so the draw is bothering me. Flavor-wise, I think it's very, very simple. I'm waiting to see kind of how this builds and how it grows into the second, third, and see if it kind of unleashes something my way. If it kind of pushes a flavor in my direction. This is a Habano Oscuro wrapper. So I would think I would get more spice out of this Nicaraguan in the binder and the filler. As a matter of fact, why am I not getting more spice off of this? Because I had a cold and I could totally mess with you, but that's gone. I feel great. Although you saw my nose, I'm still kind of a little bit. Maybe it's a residual thing. Maybe it is a residual. There's I would argue there's a bit of wood going on in this. Kind of see where some other flavors develop. We're gonna get back to the show. Glad you guys are here. Leave your comments. Happy to talk to you, and of course, follow in all the places: Twitter, Instagram, Tony Katz, Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, and subscribe on YouTube or Rumble at Tony Katz. Let's get back to the show. We can get back to the show, Len. Excellent.
Most importantly, I am here today as the mother of a proud trans man. I am here today as the aunt of a proud trans man. My best friend's kid is trans, and my kid's best friend is trans. My wife and I, our lives are filled with the most amazing, beautiful, brave, trans people, young and old, but especially young.
Yeah, that's the problem, Cynthia Nixon, actress. The problem is you and other people like you saying that children should be able to determine their gender and engage in radical surgeries and mutilation because you would rather mutilate a kid than protect a kid. You would rather live the lie of gender affirming care. What is wrong with you? And the answer is many things. By the way, if your kid is trans, if you're the aunt of somebody who's trans, if their best friend is trans, the other one is trans, we've got a social contagion issue here. And maybe, just maybe, Cynthia Nixon, we found the source. Tony Katz today. What are you doing, everybody? 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY. Also, check out the live stream wherever it is you get your videos on the Twittix, on Instagram, on what are we on? Facebook, Tony Katz Radio, Twitter, Tony Katz, and of course, YouTube, Tony Katz. You can find it there. They came by the thousands to protest at this hospital in New York because they ended gender affirming care on children. They're screaming and they're yelling, "We see trans lives in danger." No, mutilating children puts children in danger. Do you see the difference? This is absolutely the fight to have every day and twice on Sunday. Let's be at least honest with each other, so maybe it'll be bolstering to one another. We're right, they're wrong. Children need to be protected more often than not from themselves, and certainly, in my view, from what Cynthia Nixon is saying and clearly what she believes. The young people. I mean, I'll play more of what she said, but I'm telling you right now, Producer Landon, finger on the dump button. I've given my warnings. You good? Right on.
My trans kid had his top surgery at NYU a number of years ago. His doctors were fantastic. His surgeon was the best we could have imagined. And the idea that the city is filled with young people who thought they had a place to go where they could receive the highest care, and that place has now been shut to them, sickens me to my core.
Yeah, I think we found the source. Sickened that a hospital won't mutilate anymore. It's awful sometimes to live in a world where you realize that it's us or them. But sometimes it is. And there are moments you have to be willing to say, all right, I didn't want the fight, but here we are. Cynthia Nixon is wrong. No child should be allowed to mutilate themselves. And we should fight this legally. We should fight this with our vote. And if we have to actually fight this, okay. What? Only Hakeem Jeffries gets to say we're willing to take it to the streets. We'll fight in the streets. We'll fight everywhere. Yeah. We're going to fight. I have never once questioned whether it is difficult to be the parent in that kind of situation. I don't know it personally. I don't want to. I can only imagine that it is difficult in a way that those of us not in it, we will never understand. I'm willing to accept this. It doesn't mean I'm willing to accept the abusing of children and the buying into mental illness. Gender dysphoria is a mental illness. You don't allow children to play into it. And Cynthia Nixon saying, how dare you? It sickens me that you won't play into it. Well, one of us is right and one of us is wrong, and I'll leave it to you. Here's a hint. I'm right and Cynthia Nixon is wrong. Just happy to put that there. Changes are necessary in our society. And we have seen this insanity of a conversation take place with USAID. My gosh, we can't exist without USAID. We desperately need this organization because only it can hand out money to groups that want to engage drag shows in Rwanda. It's very, very strange stuff. Very strange. You have people like Ilhan Omar, when she's not hating on Jews, discussing the idea that this is the start of the dictatorship from Donald Trump. A dictatorship, I do say. That's what she says. Because they are shutting down, and I only hope they actually do it to its completeness, shutting down this USAID group, this agency, this organization. The argument they want to make is that USAID is responsible for the soft power that we see all around the globe. They help this organization, they help that country, they help the other one. Help can still come. You don't need it this way. What does she say?
Thank you, Senator. It is really, really a sad day in America. We are witnessing a constitutional crisis. We talked about Trump wanting to be a dictator on day one, and here we are. This is what the beginning of dictatorship looks like. When you gut the Constitution and you install yourself as the sole power, that is how dictators are made.
Let's oh gosh. Dictatorships start with bullets to heads of political enemies. I'm no expert. But if I was gonna hazard a guess, I would say dictatorships don't start with, hey, Marco Rubio, you're going to be the interim head of USAID, and hey, we're not going to send any more money for drag shows in Rwanda. That's not how dictatorships start. The desperation of people like Ilhan Omar, of the progressives, has grown wholly tiresome. And it is, without question, desperation. I argued that the desperation is boring. There's nothing here. And some people argued, oh, no, there's something incredibly important here. Look at what it is they're trying to save. They are not trying to save the taxpayer. They are trying to save their own government power. This is Jamie Raskin, the Democrat from Maryland.
Elon Musk, you didn't create U.S. aid. The United States Congress did for the American people. And just like Elon Musk did not create U.S. aid, he doesn't have the power to destroy it. And who's going to stop him? We are. We're going to stop him. Elon Musk, you may have illegally seized power over the financial payment systems of the United States Department of Treasury, but you don't control the money of the American people. The United States Congress does that under Article 1 of the Constitution.
That's not true. You control spending. You don't control the money. We control the money. Spending goes through Congress. That's where the appropriation is, known as the power of the purse. But the money is ours. Not if you listen to Jamie Raskin, and not if you're clear about what it is that he's saying. He's making the statement that your money is his, and he'll decide what happens to it. And how dare you question drag shows in Rwanda or Syria, or wherever else they are happening or not happening. What we see here with this USAID conversation is that they believe that only they can decide what is good and what is proper, and you should not have a say. We see this very often in the concept of education. You, the parent, should not have a say in what happens in the kid's education because you are what? Not qualified. They went to some school and got a degree, and therefore you as a parent, your rights end the minute that kid plops out on the table if somebody wasn't able to abort it first. And after that, you have absolutely no rights whatsoever. Sit down, shut up, feed the kid, pay taxes, and don't question what it is we do for you. Pat on the head, pat on the head, pat on the head. You're welcome. Pretty ugly philosophy, if you ask me. Messed up, if you ask me. The Department of Education is now a conversation because there's a question about whether or not it will be dismantled. And what I can only say to the idea of dismantling the Department of Education. A bit late for that. You're a bit late for that. This should have happened years ago. If you think these people are freaking out now about USAID, can you imagine what they're going to do regarding the Department of Education? Of course it should be dismantled. It doesn't work. The department doesn't work. We've played this game. We've seen the results. The kids are dumber. The adults are dumber. The society is getting dumber. Let's put an end to this before we end up being idiocracy and Terry Crews is our president. Not that I would mind. Everybody be a little more physically fit. The question is whether or not the Department of Education is necessary, and the answer is no. This has nothing to do with Elon Musk. This has to do with millions of Americans who've been having this conversation because we see the results. The results as a whole for all of America, regardless of individual results of maybe our own kids, is that it doesn't work. My kids go to public school. I'm telling you, it's been great. They have a great education. Maybe it's because they've got a mom and dad who are focused on it. Maybe it's because it happens to be a good school. But this isn't true nationwide. Nationwide, the scores go down. Nationwide, we fail our kids. Why in the world should we keep it? USAID is handing out dollars by the billions to friends and allies. It's a slush fund. It's a payoff. And no American is getting a result of it. But we're not allowed to change what USAID does, and we're not allowed to change what the Department of Education does because somehow these people really think they're in charge. They think they get to decide and you suffer. And the answer is no. The political left cannot believe that Americans voted to change these things. 77 million Americans voted for something different, and that the change involves actually changing things, not rearranging things, changing things. And it's going to be messy, it's going to be ugly, it's going to be tough, and mistakes are going to be made. I think the left should know that we accept this. But changes have to come. And the money belongs to us, not to you. Oh, and you can't mutilate children. We thought that one was already understood, but I guess we need to explain that as well. I'm Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Oh. So someone was leaving me a comment. I would rather call names to those that are evil than defend them like you do. You sit on the fence and just report surface news. How about digging in and telling the truth? Or would that hurt your image on the radio? This is the kind of stuff that comes my way. This is the kind of weirdo stuff. I'm no fan of Pete Buttigieg, and I have said so many, many times. I'm on the record everywhere. I think he's a smarmy guy. I think he's a bad guy. I don't make fun of his name, Buttigieg, and they're like, oh, Buttigieg and gay, and we can make jokes. I think the jokes are stupid, so I don't do it. So I'd said as this person called him a name, a takeoff on his last name. I'm like, the name calling ends your argument. And now they're like, it's because I'm tough and you're a wimp. And okay, just, gosh. I did not know being normal would take so much effort. I was unaware that this would be the case. Good gosh. Just glorious. Anyway, good to be with you guys. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today is the name of the show. You can call in 833-468-8669, 833-GOT-TONY, or you can send a comment in if you're checking out the live stream. Glad you guys are here. Got a bunch going on. Originally, we thought we'd only be an hour. I think we might run a little bit longer on the stream. There's just a lot to get to. So much. But I'm glad you guys are here. I'm glad that you've left comments. Sharon wants to know, where in the Constitution does it say mutilating a child on a whim is okay? It does not. It does not. But really, that part of it is really about the idea of removing the concept of childhood altogether. How soon, Landon? Okay, we'll come back to the show in just a moment. That's the objective. Remove the very concept of childhood, give children agency, allow them to have total dominion over themselves, and then what's the role of the parent? That's the story. Anyway, we're going to get back to the show right here.
And talking also about Gabbard, she's going to be, if she's confirmed, DNI. The CIA has the man and woman power, have the troops to operate in the field. They've got the analysts. The DNI coordinates, but does handle the final edit on the presidential daily brief that is produced by CIA, and the briefer gets appointed. So she's a lot to say about what information actually gets to the president of the United States. What are the risks there?
I think there are significant risks, because this President's Daily Brief, the PDB, which goes to the White House and goes to 2 or 3 dozen senior officials, it provides the insights, the intelligence.
Stop. I think there are plenty of reasons to be opposed to Tulsi Gabbard being the director of national intelligence, but I will not listen to any of the reasons from Andrea Mitchell and John Brennan. This is what MSNBC puts out there and says you should listen to this. He lied about the laptop. He has an entire history of failure. MSNBC has learned nothing, and they now want to tell you why this is a problem. The ever-shrinking audience that they have, which should be dismissed more and more. I'm Tony Katz. So here's what we're gonna do. Here's what we're gonna do. Landon, we're gonna move that over to the third hour, right? Yes, and we're gonna come back and we're gonna do some more. Live streaming here. I'm really glad everybody's here. So you guys may not know that we do this in conjunction with a radio show. So right now we're in the radio break. So we're gonna take that break with everybody. We'll just kick back, relax, smoke them if you got them. It's totally cool. So we're gonna do that, and then we'll get back to the show, and I'll jump in early, and we'll chat, we'll talk. Leave your comments. I'd love to hear them. If you don't know me, Tony Katz, good to be with you. You can find everything I do at tonykatz.com. I'd greatly appreciate it. We'll take the break, and we'll come back to the show. I was going to talk about the Sovereign Wealth Fund. We'll get into that. I think we'll get into the confirmations and discuss RFK, Kash Patel, and Tulsi Gabbard one by one, where the issues may be, why it's okay that they're getting confirmed, even if I'm not down with it, and what our job still is. Because too many people think the job is whatever Trump wants. That's not it. It's whatever we want. I don't know. I'm always aware of where I am in the deal. And we're the people in charge of the deal. So keep it here. We'll be right back. Guys, welcome back. Good to be with you. Tony Katz. Tony Katz today. That's the name of the show, radio show. And then we do the live stream. Right? But it should be like live stream, and then we also do the radio show. That's the way I think it should be. It's probably the way it should be. I admit to you that I do not have the fancy set. I started taking a look at like what other people do. Like they got super fancy sets, and I don't have that. And part of it is because like I'm set up so I built this studio, and I built the studio so I could smoke cigars in it. I do Tony Katz today. I also host a show called Eat, Drink, Smoke, which is the largest cigar and bourbon radio review show in America, eatdrinksmokeshow.com. And so I built this to be able to do all the things. But like I sometimes feel like I'm doing this wrong. I should really rethink the whole space, because I'm kind of like it is minimalist. 1 minute heard. And I dig that. And I've had some people say very, very clean, easy, simple. You're not trying to be all things to all people. But like the other backgrounds, I think look better. I don't know. So I wonder, because like I've got space and I can change things around. I could change the whole desk setup and everything else. But I've like monitors here and I don't know. I'm starting to think I need a set designer. So Dave, if you're watching, we might be working together after all on this. But if you've got ideas, I'm all in. I am all in. Meanwhile, I came across something as I was going through getting ready for what's next from Bill Gates, and if you'll indulge, let me get into this. Because this is the kind of mathematics that's doing us all wrong. We're coming back to the show, guys. Glad you're here. RFK, Tulsi Gabbard, Kash Patel, they're all getting confirmed. I was a toss-up on Tulsi Gabbard, and I did not like her presentation. I did not like how she handled herself in her confirmation hearing. She didn't get overwhelmed or anything like that. And I actually said I thought she handled that part well. But when you go back and you listen to her answers, I'm not pleased, and I understand why people had trepidation. RFK was never my guy. He's a progressive. That is what it is. His position on abortion, his position on global warming, his position on taxation. I can have him discussing why our kids are too fat all day long, and he's not wrong, and I'm not going to tell him he's wrong. But where he has been wrong, I think is so egregious, I don't want to put him in a cabinet position. I lose that fight. Tony Katz today. What's going on, everybody? You'll notice that we're able to have a very, very rational conversation without anybody losing their minds. And somehow it doesn't turn out that I'm just some awful progressive because I disagree. I disagree with RFK. Kash Patel, why isn't he confirmed already? I thought Kash Patel had a very, very good presentation, because against Kash Patel, it was the roughness. It was very, very rough stuff. And I thought he handled himself extremely well. And I say put him in and let's see what's going on. Let's see what's happening. Let's see what he can do. Now, it is to that end, that's where I was on Tulsi Gabbard. I can understand people's issue regarding Syria and understand the issue when she says out loud, I'm afraid that intelligence would lead to certain policy, and therefore maybe I have an issue with that intelligence. That's not the job. But leave all that to the side. These people are getting confirmed. And what we want to see is the result. Sometimes you lose. It's okay. Now let's see the result, that we can all see whether or not it worked out. And if it doesn't work out, let's be honest enough to say, nope, this ain't working, and make the change. This is what we were talking about earlier with USAID and with the Department of Education. These things don't work. Why is it so frightening to people, stunning to people, shocking to people. They might want to make a change. Well, for the political left, it is obvious that this is about power. And the change means a diminishment of power, and that is the thing they are trying to avoid. But it's a thing that has to happen. When we see people engaged in an activity, like, for example, so this is Ilhan Omar. It's a workshop for people who are from Somalia living in the United States. Now, this is how it's advertised. Ilhan Omar is now hosting workshops for Somalians living in the country illegally to advise them on how to avoid being deported. Now, I haven't heard this yet. I'm going to hear this with you right here.
xildhibaanad ilhaan cumar oo dhowaan la hadashay saxaafadda ayaa tala bixin siisay dadka aan haysan ee ku nool dalkan.
Waxaan ula talinayaa dadka Soomaalida
ah. As the Somalian people, that if ICE attempts to question you, and so this is the translation, you are not obligated to answer their questions. Just state that you were advised by a lawyer not to answer questions. Now, this is out there, floating around. Is that exactly what the translation is? I don't know. But I would state without any hesitation that if a member of Congress is advising people on how to lie to American authorities, thwart American authorities, and stay in the country illegally, I'm sorry, that's expulsion time. It is what it is. And if we allow her to remain, well, this is the kind of mistake that happens over and over and over again. People are involved in these things, doing these things, and there's no ramification. How was it possible there was no ramification for Adam Schiff for lying about Russia? We know that he lied. We know that he had no inside information. We know that he had absolutely nothing that tied Trump to anything that was indecent. But yet there he was, stating to Chuck Todd and to others that, well, you know, I can't share it with everybody yet, but I have got the information here that is really gonna make a difference, and I can't share it all with you right now, but when I can, that's really gonna make a difference. You'll see what that Donald Trump, he lied about everything. He lied about everything.
But you admit it's all you have right now is a circumstantial case.
Actually, no, Chuck. I can tell you that the case is more than that, and I can't go into the particulars, but there is more than circumstantial evidence now. So, again, I think...
So you have seen direct evidence of collusion?
I don't want to go into specifics, but I will say that there is...
Because you can't go into specifics. You lied to Chuck Todd. Even Chuck Todd's like, wait, you've seen this? And he was like, well, you know, trust me. You know? Adam Schiff is the guy who tells the girl, oh, yeah, I'm wearing a condom. Trust me. Good gosh. Good Lord. Oh, yeah, I love you, baby. We're going to be together forever. Anything for power, anything for control. There comes a moment where you recognize things don't work. And I don't know why people stick with things that don't work. This brings us to Bill Gates, who I saw was doing an interview with the BBC. Now, Bill Gates is very upset with this defund of USAID. He's very upset with withdrawing from the World Health Organization. The World Health Organization doesn't work. Now you say to me, my gosh, they've helped stop the spread of this and that and the other. They lied about the origins of COVID, and they worked with China to keep quiet the origins to prevent China from taking any blame. With all due respect, I don't need any more than that. How many more times does the spouse need to cheat on you before you say I'm leaving? For some people, Once is enough. And by the way, I'm not saying my wife would ever cheat on me. I doubt that would happen. But if my wife were to cheat on me, I just hope that whoever she cheats on me with, I hope that woman is really hot. No? Am I not allowed to say? That's not allowed? I thought that would, really? I thought that was good. Hold on. My wife hasn't texted yet. She must be out of the car. This is Bill Gates having a conversation with the BBC. And what he's discussing is, as he's wandering around, I don't know if it's his house or its office, the idea of giving away money.
What shaped a brilliant but rebellious and challenging child to become one of the tech pioneers of our age? We're meeting Bill Gates and his sisters Christy and Libby on a visit to their childhood home in Seattle to find out.
I don't need to know about their childhood home. Thank you very much. I'll just cue it up to hear.
You're probably wise to take that opportunity.
So you're not cynical about their motives?
You can be cynical.
He's not impressed with Trump's pick for Health Secretary, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who denies he's anti-vax, but has repeated debunked claims about vaccine harms.
These vaccines are saving millions of lives. You know, he is misleading people about that.
That riles a man who's made it his mission to give away his fortune to combat preventable diseases. He tells me alongside philanthropist Warren Buffett, his foundation has now spent billions.
How much do you think you've given away?
I've given over 100 billion, but I still have more to give.
I've given 100 billion and I still have more to give. The question that I would ask Bill Gates is, has it made a difference? Now, I'm not telling him he can't do with his money what he will. I'm curious about where the difference is. When you discuss the idea that somehow this money combats preventable diseases, I'm not saying that's not admirable. I'm asking you, did it make a difference? When you give your money, Bill Gates, do you give your money to organizations that fit a set of criteria or live up to a set of criteria? When you give the money, do you expect any level of result in return? If someone told me they were giving their money to cancer research, the result is the actual research. You don't know necessarily what's going to come of it. But if you were giving your money to, let's say, to malaria vaccines, right, or shots that would help with malaria, do you measure how many are given out? Is it the kind of thing where it's given out year after year after year because that's what it has to be? Or is there some level of result that you expect? I think Bill Gates can do with his money whatever it is he chooses. That's not my concern. Although I do admit I find it very weird when there are people who are uber wealthy who are like, I'm not leaving my money to my kids. No, they can earn their own. I'm not leaving it to my kids. I'm leaving it to a charity. I think that's the strangest thing in the world. And I would argue, I think it is outrageously hateful. Are you telling me, and this is not just Bill Gates, are you telling me you are such a terrible parent that a stranger will take care of your money and do better with your money than your own children? This is your argument? And I have met people who have said this before, and I will admit that, and they may not know this until now, I absolutely think less of them. But I don't think there's anything wrong with having a standard and saying, I'm going to give to this, but I expect a result. The result does not have to be economic. We're not talking about the idea that you expect some profit in return. I've had this conversation with people on all sorts of subjects, but you would expect something. The question for Bill Gates is, why is it wrong when the American people expect a result? We talk about USAID. We talk about the Department of Education. We talk about the CDC. You tell us we have to take vaccines. You tell us we have to do this vaccine. And remember, I'm a guy who also didn't want RFK, but I don't think there's anything wrong with asking a question about it, and you do. And when I see the CDC not owe up to the idea that coronavirus came from the Wuhan Virology Lab, when it's clear that the Wuhan Virology Lab was given money through USAID, through EcoHealth Alliance to engage in bat coronaviruses and, of course, gain-of-function research, why is it so wrong that we say that's enough of that? That the result that we expect is that we won't be abused with our own dollars nor held hostage with our own dollars. We have a standard and we expect a result. We expect these things. Our lives will be better, our kids will be healthier, and we won't be lied to. I think that he can give his money anywhere he chooses. But he and members of the political left don't believe that for us. That we should be able to make this call, to make this rational decision on our own. That somehow we must be led. I put forth to you that nobody was better off. Nobody would have been better off if Bill Gates had spent his time volunteering in a soup kitchen instead of working on Windows. And we're all better off because of Windows. Unquestionably, the world is better off because of it. 1,000%. The world would have been better off if China had owed up to COVID the second they knew there was a leak. We'd be safer, healthier, more people would be alive, and less children would have been absolutely ripped from friends and from family and others and put into levels of isolation, children and adults alike. We'd be better off. And this is the standard that we want to uphold. And this is the result that we want. And if we're going to put our money places, we better get this result. If not, our money goes away. I wish Bill Gates felt the same way. But then again, I don't know if he actually expects a result from the things that he does, or he's just doing it out of guilt or something else. I don't have that answer. Give all you want. But don't ask us to give and not get something for it. If that thing is nothing more than a standard that we won't be lied to about the thing we're giving. I don't know if anybody else took it that way, but I did. Think about it. Let me know what you think. Tony at TonyKatz.com. Twitix Tony Katz. This is Tony Katz Today. Yeah, we didn't need to do 2 of those. Good to be with you guys. See this drives me crazy right here, right? That. Just stop that right there. The bad haircut is growing in a little bit. So now it's better. It's better. And also I appreciate some people having thoughts on the set and what we've got there. Walker saying, I think it looks good, but in the end, it's up to you. Thank you. And Freddie wants a picture of himself in the background. Sponsorship's now available. If you want to put your face right here, I don't know, what's the number? What is the number? And boom, your face will go right there. I'll gladly do that. No, I'm not putting your face up there, producer Landon. You got to pay like everybody else. Honestly, if that is how I can fund the programming, absolutely. Oh, and Mike. Okay. So for those of you who don't follow my morning show, I do mornings on 93.1 FM WIBC in Indianapolis, and I highlight things that are on the Facebook Marketplace. And there was this sign, this very cool sign at Indianapolis. So that's where I'm at. It was of the Indianapolis skyline. It was neon. It was super cool. And it would work great as a backdrop. And I'm like, I agree. I made an offer. I have reached out a couple times. They've never gotten back to me. So the Indy skyline thing, I have reached out, and no one has gotten back to me on that. And I'm pretty infuriated. Just shameful stuff, if you ask me. We're coming back to the radio show. Glad you guys are here.
Some of my colleagues are screaming like they're part of a prison riot, that this is unconstitutional and wrong, and they're very process driven. In my opinion, they should be substance driven. By that, I mean the central question here is, what were we spending taxpayer money on? Whether the president had the authority to do it, and the allegations that Musk is copying down everybody's social security number. I think that's a distraction.
I would argue that you are correct, Senator Kennedy of Louisiana. I love that dude. Tony Katz today. What is going on? You have got the United States withdrawing from the Human Rights Council of the United Nations and to put an end to UNRWA funding, the United Nations Relief Work Agency for Palestinian refugees. It is this group that worked with Hamas to coordinate on the attacks of October 7th, that absolutely worked with Hamas, that worked with them in the schools that teach children how to hate Jews. I'm going to get more into this because Josh Haston of the Jewish News Syndicate, Jewish News Service, will be with us. You've got Benjamin Netanyahu in D.C. meeting with Trump today, and how that conversation is going to go and flow regarding hostages and a host of other things. But when it comes to the United Nations, again, we talk about this idea of change and not window dressing. You have to stop funding this release work agency, which has just been a money shell game, wealth redistribution game. We need to seriously consider whether or not we're going to put an end to our relationship with the United Nations as a whole. It doesn't work. And for those people who say, well, what are you going to do? Well, first, I'm going to take the entire building there in New York. That's condos. And then, you know what we can do? We can start again. We can create a new organization. And we can leave some people out. And we can be focused actually on conversation and diplomacy and working towards a better future with people who want to work towards a better future, not with people who want to support despots, not with funding our enemies and the people who want to give influence to our enemies and the enemy of free and thinking people. I think we should be very proactive in saying the days of the United Nations are over. Let's do something else. Let's do something different. This doesn't work. And of course, the left continues to lose their mind. You can see that there's this trend. And for us, the question is, Trump talks about it. How far is he willing to go? And what I'm hoping is he's willing to go far. My conversation with Josh Hasten of Jewish News Service, that is up next. This is Tony Katz Today. If you want to hear that conversation, go to WIBC.com. That's where that is streaming. You'll be able to hear that. I spoke with him earlier, so I'm going to share that with you. I really appreciate you guys being here for this. We're getting better at it, and we're building up, and I appreciate it quite a bit. That we're every day at noon is when we do this, and it's become some nice appointment viewing. I really do appreciate it. We will be back tomorrow. For sure. We'll have another cigar. Yeah, I had a little bit of a burn issue. You see that right there. Not as much spice as I thought there would be. And I think that this cigar, just in the way it was rolled, it like Crowned Heads, that's who makes this right here. This is the Las Calaveras. This is the 10-year. I think they do a beautiful job with construction, and they have a lot of cigars like the Le Patissier, which I do would that be a Torpedo or a Bellicoso? I think is a brilliant smoke. I really like John Huber. I really like Crown Heads and what they do. I like them as people. I like a fair amount of their cigars. There's something off here. I think this is the way it's rolled. I've got another one, and when I try that in a couple weeks from now, we'll be able to tell. But it's a hand-rolled product, and sometimes it doesn't roll perfectly. It's part of the risk. When you smoke as often as we do over here, you'll run to things that sometimes like, all right, that's a little bit off. But don't get me wrong, I'm going to finish it. I'm just saying it's just not perfectly even. It's not smoking as easily as I would like it to. But I'm going to keep at it. Glad you guys are here. Can't thank you enough for being here. Follow me on the X at Tony Katz, Facebook Tony Katz Radio, Instagram Tony Katz, and YouTube and Rumble Tony Katz. Subscribe. Do that if you would. Subscribe immediately, if not sooner. Oh, I can answer this. Newish. I'm sorry. I thought you said Jewish listener. Now I won't answer. No. Newish listener. What's your least favorite cigar? Oh, holy cow. Solid question. Oh gosh. I don't know. I don't know what would be least favorite. Because you can argue it a couple different ways. If we're talking about size, I am not into the short stories, really. I'll try them. I'll have them. I'm not into the Robustos as much as I am Toros and really Churchills. I like a longer cigar. I like a Lancero, right? The 38 ring gauge, very thin, but it's more wrapper to binder and filler. It's better flavor. Yeah, oh gosh, it's a good question. If you're asking me to name a specific brand, I won't do that. I don't talk like that. I'm too into supporting the industry. Then I'm not going to talk anybody down. And by the way, the fact that I might think it's not my favorite means nothing to whether or not you do. Palates are different. And that's why they make more than one cigar. And I'm glad that they do. Guys, I appreciate you. I'm going to get back to the radio show. I will catch you tomorrow, everyone. Take care.